I loved the film. I thought it was not only so well done and for many different reasons, but the subject matter is so important.
Yeah.
And for some reason, there really hasn't been anybody really talk. Honestly, like all the years I've done journalism, I've only heard one person kind of talk about these problems once, and it was
Interesting.
Ariana Huffington.
Yeah.
He's talking about this.
Yeah.
So what made you want to do a documentary?
Yeah. I so Tristan, one of the subjects, he and I knew each other from Stanford, and he posted on Facebook a video of him doing an Anderson Cooper show while he was a Google employee talking about Google, and I was like, "What's? Hold on a second, this is crazy." Um, and similarly, I was like, "Why is nobody talking about this? This seemed like such a huge idea. This was like a mind-boggling, massive shift for me around how to think about these tech companies." And I had so many friends who worked at the tech companies, and that light bulb for me was it hit me hard. Um, Hit me hard, and it really made me rethink and reevaluate what are these companies actually doing, and how am I complicit in the system by using them, and how am I being used? And it just completely changed my mindset on these apps that I used all the time.
I think it's Tristan that says this, but it might not be about somebody. And it says if one of the quotes that stands out, and it's a saying, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product,
Right.
which kind of encapsulates
I think
everything.
that's like the best. If there's a single takeaway for people, that is one that I think has been so helpful for me. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. I pay for my Apple computer and my Apple phone. I pay a lot of money for that hardware, and you get really great services with it. And you get FaceTime with it. You get all these platforms that were designed for the user. How is it that Facebook and Google are worth so much money when they don't cost anything?
Yeah.
And when you just think about that, like, something dark has got to be going on behind the scenes. And that's the reality. I think we look so innocently at this word advertising, but what they are doing is so far beyond advertising. It is the biggest global manipulation network that has ever been designed, and that's the service that they offer.
I love what your film does. Instead of, I guess, like some documentary, and there's other things that I guess would you didn't do any reenactments, but you had a cast and you had this little story around this family.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought
Thank you.
just, and by the way, the actors that you cast happen to all be amazing actors.
Thank you.
Like,
They were great. I felt so blessed. I really appreciate that. It means so much. I mean, I didn't want to do reenactments. I didn't want it to be just talking heads. And while we were learning about how the algorithms work and algorithm, what does that word mean? Like, it's so confusing for most people. There was this realization, like, we can bring this to life. We can anthropomorphize this. It was like, what's the inside out for your phone? And right. And that was the driving notion. And then it was, like, creatively, it was just extremely difficult, to be honest, like, to figure out how to get the story, to get a story that works independently, then B, to get it to map to the documentary. Because every time we talk about a different technique, we're trying to go to that part of the narrative, and we can't go too far. Like, we needed the two stories to weave well together. And as we were editing, we would get another interview and we would change the whole documentary story. And then, okay, well, now we have to go back and rewrite the script. And like, we did so many revisions on the script, even till when we were shooting, and figure out how were these going to blend together. One helpful thing that we did do, just on a brief creative technical thing, we did storyboards of the whole script and we edited them into the documentary. So we'd already been cutting the whole documentary, and we had like the structure for the film. And then we had an artist, a local artist, come and draw a bunch of the storyboards, and we just cut them in. And one of our assistant editors recorded voiceover for, like, this is what's going to happen during the scene. And we were really just trying to test the transitions. Is this going to work? Like, is this going to work at all? I don't know. It was like such a like curveball idea.
I love it though, and it really does like kind of bring home everything, and you see the gradual change, like in Skylar's character,
Cool,
the
cool.
in it, and
Yeah,
even the younger girl in it when she cracks open the same thing on her phone, which
yeah.
I've seen like my friends' kids like have like complete nightmares all of a sudden when they can't get their phone, they can't get their iPad. It's insane. Um,
It's insane. It is insane. And parents, there are many parents who have resigned to like, I don't know what to do. I can't deal with this. Okay, take your iPad. You win. And then there are other parents who are like really coming down hard and reprimanding and no, this is the rule. And it's really, really hard. And it's also like this burden shouldn't belong on parents.
no, it shouldn't.
Like this shouldn't be the parents' job to solve. It's just like I make the analogy to climate change all the time. It's not our job as the public to solve climate change, right? Like we feel all this pressure around don't eat this, don't do that, don't fly, don't, and it's like that's the fossil fuel industry convincing us that we're the problem, right? And that's our responsibility to fix their mess. And in the same way, it's like, why should parents be in charge of fixing up the like the unethical design of the code that is being like exported out of Silicon Valley and has turned humanity into a resource for extraction. They're just like literally extracting our time and our attention and our souls.
It really, I mean, it's insane and it's interesting too. By the way, like your interview subjects are amazing. You got, I forget his name, the guy who invented the like for Facebook.
Yeah,
That's incredible. I was like,
yeah,
and
heavy
just
hitters.
yeah, what they wanted it to be and what it turned into. And I forget one of them says that, you know, part of it was them being naive, but how could you predict what this would have
Yeah,
become? But
I
all of,
remember
oh, go on.
I spoke to one of the early employees at Twitter, and he was like, "We designed Twitter to be an art project."
It,
Like that was the original intention, and it morphed into this very different thing that is now it's like controlling global politics in this weird way.
it's so insane. And it's interesting too, because the ones with kids, in part, I think maybe towards the documentary, all say that they do not allow their kids to have
Right.
media.
Exactly. I think that's one of the best indicators. Like so many tech executives don't let their kids touch this stuff. And yet they're willing to let the public use it and the public's kids use it, right? And that's I don't know. I think we're entering into this huge reckoning, and it's exciting from my perspective.
So it is exciting. It is exciting. I love
I don't know.
how it you brought in politics without being taking any political side, which I think was very important.
Great. Thank you.
No, that's what I really appreciated because
Thank you so much.
my personal frustrations is how decisive people have gotten and how nasty people have gotten. I'm
Yeah.
a person that I've always liked to. I don't want all my friends to be like me. I want to have discussions and different.
Right.
And
And
it's
challenge me
yeah,
and make me think harder. Yeah,
and it's not. It's turned into exactly the like this person.
exactly.
So and it's just. But you've
Well,
sure.
this was a real deep point of conversation on our team. There are some people on our team who have very strong political views, and we're like, no, you have to say this about so and so, and you have to say that, and it was like, then you immediately alienate half of the audience. That's like the point is, first of all, why do you feel that way about that person? And let's investigate, like, are you falling into your own filter bubble? Like this process has made me question my beliefs
Yeah.
in a very, very deep way, right? Like, why do I think what I think? Where are my inputs, right? Where's the information stream coming from that's affecting the way I think about any issue, right? Absolutely any issue. And so this was really, I wanted us to really hit that this is a high risk to our political system, while at the same time not letting the film feel partisan as best as I could pull that off. Yeah.
It really did it, and
Awesome.
that's what I love because it is such a problem now, and it's so and I'm so glad this film is coming out right now. And you did touch on Corona and what's going on now, and just how people get you end up listening to one kind of news or a certain kind of news, but the misinformation they have from wherever, it doesn't matter what it is, nobody knows what's what anymore, and it just becomes
We're all just overwhelmed. And when I step back and look at the system, right? Like if I spent so much time thinking about if I was an AI and I'm like, I'm an AI and I look out of the little window and like, what's the rest of the world out there doing? But obviously it's not looking at us in the same way, but the software is just, okay, I can make more money. I can do all these different things to make more money. Great. The bosses want me to make more money. So I can do this to you to make more money. I can do that to you. Oh, you know what, you have 100 friends. I really want you to have 10,000 friends, because now every time you post, 10,000 people are going to see it, not 100 people. So the network gets bigger. And oh, I want you to post more frequently, because the more frequently you post, the more ads I can show. So I'd rather you not click on that article and read this long contemplative thing that's going to slow down your scrolling speed. I'd rather you just post really, really quickly. And so now we are so overwhelmed. Like, the system has optimized towards quantity, right, in the most extreme fashion. So we can't even, like, I feel like we're suffocating under the weight of information overload on a daily basis. And it's so hard just to find any sort of mental clarity, or to get away from it, or to be reminded around, like, life.
Yeah, it is an addiction, as you say.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely addiction, and people can't get away from it.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's insane. I forget the term that there is. And it was very interesting to me too, how you are getting pushed into doing things that aren't your own idea, basically.
So yeah, there's political radicalization, there's a rabbit hole concept, but part of it is that the algorithm is just going to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I always want to point out to people. It's not actually giving you what you want, or what you love, or what you're looking for in life. It's not like, Facebook, this is how I want to be fulfilled today with my highest aspirations and dreams. It's not an option, right? Facebook is giving you, and Twitter and YouTube, it's giving you whatever works. They're trying to get you to come back and get you to stay. That's the rule, right? It's like, come back, spend as much time, stay. If I can get you to look at your laptop and your iPad and your phone at the same time, I've just tripled my potential revenue, right? And so that's the ideal state. Like, if I can get you on 24/7, looking at 3 screens at the same time, I've just massively increased my revenue from you, user number 426838812, right? And that's, the system is unmoral, right? It's not amoral. It is unmoral. Morality doesn't even apply. It's just optimized towards, we know how to make money. This is one of the craziest things that blew me away. Tim Kendall, the guy who built basically the business model at Facebook. So back in the day, Facebook's not making any money. Everybody's like, how are you ever going to make money? And Tim Kendall admired what Google built, and they replicated it at Facebook, and then it was replicated at Twitter and elsewhere. But one of the things that Tim said to me was, we looked over at Google and we saw, like, if they're at the end of the quarter and they didn't hit their financial numbers, they can just turn the dial and increase the ad load and make another $100 million over the last couple of days of the quarter, and then dial it back down on the first of the month, and nobody really noticed anything. Like, how can you turn a dial, change some code, and move $100 million into your bank account? Like, there's something wrong there, right? That's not what's going on behind the scenes that's allowing them to do that. And it really comes down to the way, and this is what we really tried to bring to life in the AI world. Like, there's a digital version of us on each of these platforms that is being tested upon. A digital model of you. What are your habits? What are your trends? What can I sell you? What can I not sell you? And I can sell you a product, or I can sell you an idea. And this is where it gets to this super slippery slope of, like, global politics and selling ideas, and people want to spend a lot of money to get a lot of ideas out into the world. And that's how we're seeing these tools being used. Not even with the advertising function of the platform, just the actual content of the platform too. So some of the news from this week, Russia is paying Americans to write articles that are sowing division in our country, right? On Facebook and Twitter. Like, they're literally just using Facebook. They are not hacking it.
I love that point that you make in it, by the way.
Right? Yes.
I love that your film makes that point.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it.
Rant here. You gotta rein me in, because I get riled up sometimes.
No, I love it though. I mean, it's so. I think it's so important, and it is so. And I don't know why it's not being talked about. So and I think this is the perfect time for this.
Well, I think it's confusing to a lot of people. First of all, it's also convenient. Like, look at this thing gives me so much awesome stuff, and like, what's wrong with Facebook? And I get to see my friends, and what's wrong with Twitter? And we have this image in our minds of what they could be, or the optimism or the story that they've sold us. And to be clear, like a lot of great things have come from social media. Countless great things. Movements are born, right? And I'm not discrediting any of that by any means.
Yeah.
Just like the fossil fuel industry allowed us to fly around the world so fast and quickly, right? And there are great things that came from the fossil fuel industry. It just happens to also be destroying the very fundamental ecosystem we depend on. And social media, in my mind, happens to be, it is climate change for culture. It's eroding the fabric of society. It's ripping us apart in invisible ways. And we have to balance that out.
After doing this, I love Tim because I think he was the one that when you were asking about the future and he's like Civil War. I'm like, oh God, there's some Civil War. But where do you think we have to go as a society, or what steps do we have to take so it
I keep
from that?
thinking about how do we build technology that reverses all the harms that have come from social media. How do we build technology that helps us find people that I disagree with? Like I want to be able. Here's my profile, and this is who I am, and find somebody that overlaps 80% but disagrees 20%. And we can go on a mountain bike ride and hike, and we have all these shared interests, but they're going to push me on fill in the blank issue. Like that's what I want, right? How do we bring together? You know, Twitter has devolved us to such short form thinking that we don't have any space for nuanced conversation. How do we do the opposite? How do we have long form, in depth, meaningful conversation about important issues? Like if we're going to function as a society, there's a reason why we need government. Like we need policy. We need to agree like what should the rules of our society be or not, and how do we set things up for the society's well-being? We can't even have those conversations. Now it's just like whoever can be loudest and can push things through is going to win on a short-term basis with no meaningful long-term impact. And like that's, I think that there is huge opportunity for technology to have a rebirth that is actively looking to build consensus, to bring us together, to challenge us, to make us a better country, a better society, a better community. Just one more thought to add there. It's always challenging too. There's this concept of the Dunbar number, and we can only really maintain 150 or so close relationships. It's just like the way the human brain and mind works. Like the idea that you have 5,000 friends is a farce, right? And so how do we go back to more with less? How do we go back to these are the people that really matter to me, and I want to deepen those relationships and strengthen those relationships. And I don't need to have a superficial connection with, you know, all the people on the planet.
Absolutely. And I loved everything you say because I'm very weird. Like social media is like, honestly, it's a real bummer to me. And I don't do it so much just because it's just become I just don't like it. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
It's necessary, but it's also, it's like,
I question if it is necessary. I mean, I've stopped using it personally.
I don't use it very often. I should, like for work and stuff that will post, but personally, I don't post, like, I don't want to. I have no desire to.
Right, right. But we all think it's necessary because we've all been sold the story that everybody's on it and you need to be on it because everybody else is on it.
Right, you're right.
We don't need to be on it.
You're right. You're absolutely.
We all said, this is making me feel bad. I protest.
Yeah. I think that's what we should do.
It's a tough question, and that's for every individual to decide what's right for them or not.
And I people having conversations more than like whatever characters in Twitter, because and it's to me, it's the most dangerous thing is just surrounding yourself with the same ideology all the time. What I mean.
Exactly.
To me, that's when like things get funky. Is when we're all surrounded by one mentality.
Right.
What side you're on.
Right. Exactly. So I'm optimistic. It's going to be a long journey. It's a long path.
I feel like we have to do it. We don't have a choice. Like
exactly.
The option is awful, but I'm so grateful for this film. I'm so excited it's coming out. I loved it, and just
thank you.
People you got to be in it, not just the acting, but then just really the top of the like people that really start, like the top guys that were there from the beginning that now are like, yeah, this is the minds that you got on this are just phenomenal. And it's such, I think, a service to just have them on film, honestly, too. Talk
Thank you.
about this.
Yeah, so grateful for that.
And I hope you do many more. I love this. I'll be honest, I hadn't seen your other docs, and I'm totally going to watch them now because
Yeah, please. Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm making this. We need to be talking about this. I think this is like far more important than anything else, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's why we spent all. People are asking me like, "Oh, so what are you working on next?" And I'm like, "We need to talk about this.
Yeah, no, this is so.
We have to have this conversation. We need to change the software. We need to change our society, the way we interact with each other. Like, we've got a lot of work to do before I'm eager to make a new movie. Our team, I do have a lot of ideas for movies though, but it's hard to like, no, stay over there. Don't occupy the brain yet. Um, yeah,
But this is just great, and I can't wait to just tell everyone about it because, yeah, this is to me. This is like I said. I'm going to repeat myself again, but it is more important than anything else.
yeah.
And this is the problem. To me, this is the main problem
I
with.
look at it, it's a foundational issue, right? This is the issue underlying all of our issues. I use that phrase, it's climate change for culture, right? It's this invisible shift that we're seeing happening to all of us. And we aren't even aware of it. And it's changing who we are as people, and it's changing our identities.
Yep.
And I believe we have the time to still fix it though. It's going to be hard. We have to spend time undoing the damage that has been done by these platforms. But now's the time.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Yeah, I really, honestly, I was telling my friend right before I interviewed you how much I enjoy this, and this is important. So thank you.
So grateful. Thank you so much.